A friend of mine posted a private video about their PDA discovery journey. And man, I really relate to what they were saying. So I often talk about how my PDA response is not just a trauma response plus autism. That it's actually a lot of other fun things about me, like my creativity, my writing and speaking and performing, my world building, my dress up, my career as a costume designer, the communicating I'm doing with you guys now. All of that stuff is PDA too. A lot of us really get hung up on demand avoidance as being PDA. Demand avoidance is one trait of PDA. Please don't concentrate on demand avoidance and take all the other awesome stuff for granted. The way that you can make stuff, the way that you can build stuff, design stuff, organize stuff, the way that you can read people, their emotions and their reactions on their face and with their body, the way that you can tell what your people need and what moves them and when they're in a flow state. The way you are in a flow state. When you find something that is in the PDA flow, something that is filling you with bliss, that person is a PDA too. It's not just when you can't be told what to do or when you are sabotaging something because it isn't working for your nervous system and you're not able to take direct and clear action about it. PDA and demand avoidance are not the same thing. Don't take the good part for granted and just focus on the bad stuff. It's the awesome parts of you too. The trait of demand avoidance does suck. It really does. But it's not consistent. PDAers can be very highly productive when they're in their flow, and it might not meet other demands set by other people or even some of the demands set by you, but you may have been able to paint the Sistine Chapel today. Maybe you were supposed to file your taxes, but you invented a new app today. Or you streamlined some cool thing about your parenting day and made the lives of your whole family easier. There are so many cool things that we get done despite having a threat response to interior and exterior demands. And just because we have that threat response doesn't mean we can't do the demand. We can, and we do. We do stuff that we don't want to do all the time. And accepting that you're PDA means you recognize that you will get triggered. Look for it. And you can kind of talk yourself out of it. Sometimes you realize, like, when that person said, have a nice day, they were telling me what to do, but not in a cruel way. So I can just breathe this out. I can just breathe through. I do not now feel like I have to have a bad day on purpose because somebody told me to have a nice day. I don't need to say something snarky in response to that. I don't need to snap at the next person that talks to me. I can breathe out and notice my demand avoidance response, my trigger, and my nervous system doesn't have to ride the whole roller coaster. Not every single time. Sometimes I'm on the roller coaster before I realize, but we don't have to do that every single time once we know we're doing it. When you know that you need that battery refilled so that you can meet demands, like, you have demands that you can meet every day. It's just however much is in your demand battery. And if you fill that battery up with flow and play and freedom, hold on just a second. So you know your battery's going to be drained more by certain demands, and you know that certain things will fill it up. And you can start living your life according to that. Whether you can have a low demand lifestyle or not, and frankly a lot of us cannot, you can do more that fills the battery. We can understand that our demand avoidance is actually a gift, that there is something that needs to be dealt with. And our PDA intuition is a tingling about it, but our conscious mind is not ready to address it. If I'm having a lot of battery drain, if I'm having a lot of demand avoidance, and my other positive PDA traits are less accessible, like I'm not playing dress up right now while I'm in burnout. Maybe I should. It kind of like brews inside of me for a while, and then the ideas and the realizations start bubbling up, and I start asking myself questions. Sometimes you don't want to do things. You want to do things. A lot of PDAs have talked about that. I love the idea because it's so true. Sometimes we're trying to make ourselves do something. Like when I was making my oldest kid go to school because we got into the best school in the county, and my PDA intuition was telling me that it was not the best school for him. Just remember that the PDA threat response and even traits like demand avoidance, which are nobody's favorite, are not inherently bad. Just like a fire alarm or a smoke alarm is not bad for going off, it's doing its job. Demand avoidance and other PDA threat responses to everything like injustice, change, transition, all of our threat responses, our nervous system threat responses, are letting our body mind know something that isn't working for us. It might be tight pants, a beeping sound at the grocery store, a smell coming from somewhere in the house. It might be cishet standards, or it might be capitalism. Something isn't working for us, and the PDA response is that intolerance to bullshit detector. It's probably not PDA that keeps you from having like romantic relationships. It might be you're in relationship with the wrong person or people. It might be that your body doesn't really want that kind of relationship. The person who is the right fit for your PDA self needs you to fully and authentically know yourself before they can find you. I know that I've changed a lot in my last 2 years of coming out as PDA. I almost feel like people who knew me before the pandemic don't really know me anymore if we haven't kept in touch, because that's how much discovering autistic identity and culture has helped me. A little word of warning to people who are new to PDA. There's like a roller coaster that everybody rides when they're first finding out about it. And one of them is this dark thing of like, oh my God, if this isn't my trauma or like some personality disorder thing that I can like fix, if this is autism, then I'm like this forever and that sucks. And it does indeed begin to feel like it might really suck, because autistic stuff will flare up. I go in and out of phases where my demand avoidance and my sensory sensitivity and other traits and my social struggles are way, way, way harder to deal with than they have been, because they're like flaring up and coming to the surface because they're allowed to in a way that they haven't in the first 42 years of my life. So the last 2 years, I've felt more autistic and more PDA. So it may feel like, oh my gosh, I'm this bad thing. It's never going away. And look, it's worse now that I know about it. But that is kind of one of the phases. There's the angry at my entire childhood phase. The I can barely talk to my parents now because I realize how much they are making demands on me phase. The oh wait, I'm feeling better, maybe I don't have this, was that PDA appropriation phase. And then something happens and you have a big PDA threat response and you're like, oh my God, no, I do indeed have PDA. There's also phases where you meet a new PDAer and you fall madly in love with them as a friend or a lover, and you just revel in the joy of having somebody who gets it. There's a phase where you realize that it's not a matter of won't, that you've been beating yourself up, like you just won't answer your email or whatever. And actually it's can't. And that you are a disabled person. And that's sad, and it goes in and out of grief and denial. There's the looking at your entire family history and having conversations with your family about things like incarcerations, institutionalizations, all sorts of autistic family history stuff that you might not have been aware of. That is, if you are still in contact with your birth family. A lot of us aren't. A lot of PDAers have, unfortunately, a family history with a large pattern of abandonment and estrangement. It won't just be you that's having PDA discoveries. You'll be having PDA discoveries on behalf of your whole family. It is a very intense journey, and I'm only 2 years into it, and I bet there's a lot more phases to come.